Is your favourite hiking brand destroying the planet? Sadly, that isn't clickbait or hyperbole this time. It seems that certain companies are greenwashing and pretending they're greener than they really are. We see those adverts with green forests and the blue clear mountain streams with a person standing wistfully and looking into the distance. I really wish they'd stop doing that. And it's rife in the hiking industry, which is ironic because they ask us hikers to leave no trace, but they leave traces themselves onto the planet. I researched 42 hiking brands and found that only 9, really 7, were good or great. Is your brand among them? You might be surprised. That is clickbait. Hi, it's Tim here from Hard Up Hiker, the channel that usually focuses just on budget hiking and those who have to hike within a budget. But my supposed day job is as an artist, and I try to be as green and ethical as possible in my work. Even use vintage fountain pens to avoid the dreaded single-use pens, and use public transport and get very cold and wet in tents to do my work. So in this video I want to talk about greenwashing and how it is in the hiking industry and other industries as well. Greenwashing is when companies lie or pretend that they're greener and more ethical than they really are. It's to get away from their responsibility to the planet and to focus on their profits, because it's, hiking is seen as a green pursuit, an aspirational pursuit. We've seen, as I say, all those adverts, people wandering around pristine terrains and on mountains and having light up tents for some reason. I don't understand that whole glowing tent thing, really. That is a whole industry and also Instagram cliche of itself. But that suggests the companies are much more greener than they quite often are. And so it cons consumers into thinking that, oh, this is a green ethical brand, that's good for the planet. And also it kind of makes a mockery of the political movement and campaigns and of those who are being green. Sort of robs them of their deserved plaudits and also ruins it for everyone, really. So when you hear things that are saying they're recycled or organic or vegan or fair trade or carbon neutral, how do you really know they really are what they say they are? So that's why you use sites like Good On You. There are quite a few over various industries review websites that go through and check what they say versus what they actually do and what they put into practice. And they have thousands of reviews of fashion brands and also hiking brands, quite a few outdoors brands on there, 42 as I can find. And they review them through 3 categories, which is people, things like, do they pay a living wage? Are they union busting or do they support unions? Do they have diversity, inclusion? How do they treat people? How do they treat their workers and the community in general? The next one is planet, so that's a bit more what you'd expect, which is water conservation and consumption, carbon emissions, waste generation, pollution, and things like the Blue Sign Standard. The Blue Sign Standard is a standard which certifies whether the whole process, and that's why it's quite difficult as a standard, of creating textiles is sustainable. From growing the cotton or growing the polyester, that doesn't really do that. Sort of basically from created from the first sources to the end product. So some of these companies sign up to that. Some of them not so much, because it's kind of hard to control the whole process. And the third one is animals. So animal welfare, things like the Responsible Down Standard, which bans live plucking, so the geese and the ducks for down are dead. Responsible wool standards, same thing for sheep. You know, are they being sheared in a respectful way, and you know, and it's not hurting the sheep and not damaging them, and you know how they're looked after, and if it's vegan and those kind of things. And within those three categories, they're branded on a scale that goes from 1 to 5, and the categories are: we avoid, not good enough, it's a start, good and great. So how did your brand do? Well, being neurodiverse, hashtag altlife, I of course made a spreadsheet, which is, you can see a link down in the doobly-doo to a Google spreadsheet. And I even wrote a script. I know, trying to be professional or some shit. I know, it's not going to last. When I started looking into this, there were some surprises for me personally. I'm a big fan of Decathlon. I'm wearing the famed MT100 down jacket, which is as good as people say. You know, it could be a bit better in static conditions, but I love this down jacket. And they got a not good enough. This is responsible down. And I know they do blue sign on some of their things, so I was quite surprised at that. And it's mostly around, and this will be a running thing, Decathlon is not taking adequate steps to ensure payment of a living wage for its workers. We all hear that quite a lot. Saucony, I'm wearing their shoes at the moment, has the same problem with worker pay and transparency. I love their shoes. I've had to mod them because they have a bit too little padding at the back, and I was getting blisters because the little plastic bit was cutting into my feet. But otherwise, compared to the North Face, and more about North Face later, the soles haven't just rubbed off, because I've been mostly wearing them in the city. I'm doing some hiking with them, but a lot of the times I'm wearing my general shoes, and they've survived very well. But I'm very surprised that they're not good enough. Icebreaker, I'm wearing the base layer, one of the merino base layers, because it's cold out here. They use a responsible wool standard, and they push themselves as being quite green and ethical. And we'll talk more about the worst greenwashing companies in a minute. And obviously merino is more sustainable because it's not made from petroleum or fossil fuels, and sheep just grow more of it. And they make a big thing about those things. But again, they praise them for the good policies to monitor water usage in its supply chain, but it's not taking adequate steps to ensure payment of a living wage for its workers. And total schadenfreude. Regatta is on here as not good enough. Owner of Craghoppers. And you'll see my video, I'll link here, where I lambast their customer service and also their production quality of their trekking poles. So, yes, not surprised. What is a surprise is that several of the brands mentioned on the list as being not good enough actually market themselves actively, rather than just passively saying, hey, you know, here you can look at fjords in our coats. They actually push themselves as being green and ethical actively as part of the brand. And you'll be surprised at some of these. You will be surprised at some of these. I'm not just saying that. And they're on the spreadsheet in a sort of pink, because I've done a traffic light thing going from green to dark red. So you've got Fjällräven, Arc'teryx, Kathmandu. Was it Kathmandu? I didn't say that. Koala Tree, Smart Wool. So the rivals of Icebreaker as well. An Icebreaker. Helly Hansen, Save the Duck, Prana, and Nerona. I don't know those two. All get a not good enough, which is pretty shocking. Mostly around not paying a living wage, water use, or lack of diversity and inclusion, I think, one or two of them. To give them a little bit of credit, although it's more than they deserve, it might be through their lack of transparency. They might be doing these things and not telling anyone about it, which is be a bit strange, especially if you are pushing yourself as a green and ethical brand. They might not be as transparent about the process as they should be, but that's the point. for brands that actively say they are ethical and green, they should prove that they are. We shouldn't have to guess whether they are or not. And it's very suspicious if they don't say these things. Be very cynical about that. And otherwise, it's just words. It's just hot air that is, adding to the greenhouse effect and raising the temperature of the planet. So, we have to hold them accountable, saying, is this actually true? You say one thing, but you're making it obvious if you're doing another, or if you're actually doing as you say. 2 hiking brands got the massive thumbs down of We Avoid. That's Eddie Bauer, who make a down jacket, which is usually in America seen as sort of a rival of this Decathlon, and Montbell, mostly again around working practices or lack of transparency about anything that they're doing at all. Nothing, they're not saying anything good or bad, which is a massive red flag. So fanfare, who are the good ones? Only 9 brands, maybe 7, got the good or great on that website. That's Patagonia, Cotopaxi, Vord, Tentree, yay, E-Conscious, United by Blue, Finisterre, yay, British represent, Timberland and North Face. Now the last 2, I have a bit of a quibble with the rating system on Good On You. It usually, in a lot of the lower categories, they seem to downgrade. There were a few of them I was like, actually that's a border, and I would have thought that would be on the next category up, but they seem to mark down. But those last 2 only got 1 good, and the rest were it's a star. And I personally think they shouldn't be in the good category. I think I would say you need to have 2 goods to be in the good. But it's their system, but, I'm like, really? I'm wearing a Tentree shirt. It's my favourite hiking shirt. You will have seen it on the channel in videos and photographs. I wear this all the time when hiking. It's a recycled polyester shirt. And to those saying, oh, Tim, I can't afford to use those brands or buy from those brands, look at those prices. And I get you. I bought this at TK Maxx. It was end of season stock. And I got it cheap. I didn't get it for, I think their shirts usually go for like 20, 30 quid. I did not pay that. So, if you shop around sales and things, you can find some of these cheaper. But I do understand that not everyone can afford to shop with these brands. I myself have shopped with these brands that are not good enough, which is depressing. And I've bought cheap Chinese stuff of weird, possibly dodgy provenance because I can't afford all of this. But we do what we can. So if you can afford to go with brands that are putting their action where their mouth is on their advertising, do so. If not, recycle, public transport. I don't fly, but I can't afford to fly anywhere. Can't really afford to use much public transport actually. But we do what we can. I'm sure the comments will be fun for this video. I'm not saying that I'm Greta Thunberg. I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone else. As I say, the comments on the last video, or last but one video, this is the second I've recorded, but I haven't finished editing. The next one, aluminium, were interesting. I had to hide a few of those, only 2 of those, but I had to hide 2 people because they went off on one at me and it was all very rude. And my comments on my YouTube videos, I want a nice, peaceful, friendly atmosphere. I want people to be respectful to each other and me. And just, if you come in and say, oh, you're a fool, you're an idiot, you're just going to get hidden. Because I don't want that kind of comments. I want somewhere that's friendly. And, I just don't want to get into that, trolley argumenty things. Although trolls do help the channel. So I'm not saying go comment nasty stuff in the comments, please don't. But ironically, you're just helping me, so And yeah, the last video has got up to about nearly 9,000 or 8,000, 8.9 I think, views, which is amazing, and thanks to everyone who subscribed. I'm not saying I'm somehow better at this, but but the comments might be interesting on this video. But be respectful. It's not for everyone, but if you can, please look at these sites and please try and do what you can. And sadly, not all of the things are on there, because that site is very much about fast fashion and fashion brands and some outdoor hiking brands, quite a few actually, 42 that I found. But they didn't have Berghaus, RAB, Outdoor Research, Galert, Mountain Designs, Mountain Equipment Co-op, Paramo, Mountain Warehouse, La Sportiva, Low Alpine, Mindel, Montaigne, Scarpa, Rohan, Black Diamond, Sierra Designs, Gossamer Gear, or Osprey as ones that I couldn't find on there. There were some ones which were like, I think are really Salt Rock. I really hate Salt Rock. Salt Rock is a brand in the UK that pretends to be outdoorsy, but isn't really outdoors clothes. It's just people standing around on beaches looking windswept. Shade, yes. But they're not really an outdoors brand. They just pretend to be. White Mountaineering is on there. It's a Uniqlo brand, but I don't really see it as a hiking brand. But so there's some overlaps. There might be some things you think, oh, Tim, you didn't include this, but I went through lists of hiking brands that are, and used mostly stuff I recognised, or I googled the stuff I didn't recognise and saw if it, what they did, or whether they do backpacks and tents or things that are specifically for hiking and camping. So, and some of them on there might not be, and you might disagree. So, you can tell me in the comments. But I do think we do need to have a conversation about greenwashing and being really green with brands, and what that entails to be ethical and not damaging the planet. I think we can all do our bit and push for change and push these companies to be more what they say they are. It's surprising how much of them are not entirely honest certainly about paying a living wage. That's not good. It might be strange for me to say this as someone who recommends gear or does gear reviews, but it has to be said. Please, please, please don't buy another shiny thing that will just sit there gathering dust. Reuse, recycle, repair, regift, secondhand. I mean, my favourite wet weather jacket, my best wet weather jacket, is a secondhand jacket from the Royal Navy. Yes, those ones that sail the seas, and it's secondhand Navy jacket. It's a foul weather jacket, and it's better than most of the commercial jackets I've experienced. It's their version of Gore-Tex called MVP, and you can usually get these for about 20 quid if they're a bit scruffy, 25 to 30 if they're more of this condition. Just look up how the sizing system works. They go on height and waist in centimetres. It's a NATO standard. And yeah, I really recommend. I would carry this more, if not, it's not as packable as I'd like, but when it's really chucking it down, it's brilliant. So yeah, my biggest budget tip, and it's secondhand. So it's not necessarily about, hey, gear, new gear. We all like new shiny things, but sometimes, like I've been sewing my trousers and repairing my trousers and putting on iron-on patches, and so. Learning to sew is a good one as well. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and say thanks to the people who have subscribed. And hopefully this will work. This is the third time I've recorded this, because I was using some experimental mode on my camera and it was all flickery. Yeah. Yes, but I've finally found the 4K on my camera, so hopefully this looks nice and cinematic. And yeah, if you want to subscribe and have more hiking reviews, rants and rambling, literal and figuratively. And don't forget to check Good On You, the website, for your hiking brands, and do your own research. Don't just follow mine. Always do your own research into this. Sites like Good On You make it easier to find this stuff, but it is hard. Companies could make it a lot more easy, and they do hide this stuff on their websites. And there should be more transparency. So thanks for watching. I'll speak to you soon. Just drive by en masse clanking, it's alright. They're destroying the planet.